Hey guys, this is Pineapple, and today we're going to talk about the Promised Neverland. We'll be talking about the events from episode 2, and I'm going to take some time to break down the system that's in place at the Gracefield house to try to give you a picture of how this all works, but I'll also be talking about some of the twists and turns that we've already seen happening in the series. So make sure you've watched episode 2 before you watch this video, and if you want to follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with any announcements that I have, you could do so on Twitter at VocalPineapple. The link is in the description. With that said, let's get started. Hit it! So what is going on in the orphanage and behind the scenes? The kids spend this week's episode trying to lay their plots against Isabella, but to do this, they've got to understand how things work. They work it out in their heads for a while, using all of the available information that they have, but let's recap real quick just to lay it all on the table. There are children, and they come from somewhere, but that place of origin hasn't been revealed yet, and it isn't clear why they end up at the orphanages or farms, but they do. Children are born and sent to the farm, and they're kept in an environment that makes them happy and complacent and serves as a perfect cover for what's really going on. Everything is personalized to make them comfortable and happy, but there are also safeguards. Why do all of the children wear white? So that if they try to escape and fail, or if they're out doing something they're not supposed to be doing, you can see the dirt on them rather easily. This makes it so that you don't really have to pay too much attention to the kids individually, because all it would take is a quick look to tell if anyone is suspiciously dirty. At home, I want you guys to maybe, I don't know, just it's weird giving people homework to do, but if you have a piece of paper, like a white piece of paper or just an empty white piece of paper that has absolutely nothing on it, I want you to stare at it. Now I want you to take a pen or a pencil and put a dot on that piece of paper anywhere, just a decently little, a dot. That dot is now the focal point of that piece of paper because it's the only thing on the paper. If you look away and look back at the paper, your brain anchors to those dots and spots because it's the only available information on the page. This is the whole idea behind the white suits, and it goes to show you how well thought out this whole thing is, even from a base level. So the children wear white, they don't get to watch television, and they don't get any word from the outside world whatsoever. They're given tests daily, and these tests confuse Emma and Norman for a while because they questioned how a child being smarter would affect taste. This is when they realize how the tests are actually linked to taste, and they reason that the brains of the kids must be the tastiest part, but developed brains taste better. This made them think of all of the scores of the various students and the ages that people have been shipped out at. Starting at age 6, the kids with the lowest test scores will be shipped out as food. These kids are the normal quality ones, and they're probably the equivalent of a burger or something to these demons, but there is definitely higher quality meat being held at the Gracefield house, and that meat comes from our 3 main characters. These 3 are nearly 12 years old, so their brains are the biggest in the house, and all 3 of them tend to get perfect scores on their tests, so their brains are the most developed as well. Emma, Norman, and Ray are pretty much like walking steaks for these demons, since they're pretty much the highest quality of meat that one could ask for. This intelligence is something that's rather important, because Emma and Norman are gonna have to pull their intelligence together, and that's one of the reasons that it's good that Ray has officially joined the party. For the entire episode, we see Ray following the characters around and spying on them, and finally we get the reveal that he's just curious about what happened to them at the gate in episode 1. After a long conversation between the 3 of them, Ray agrees to help, but he also thinks that the plan is foolish. He says that the only way for them to escape is to pick the kids that can survive and leave behind the ones that can't, but Emma says there is no way that is happening. This definitely goes back to what I said before about the key differences between these 3 characters. You see, all 3 score perfect scores on their tests, so you could say that they're the smartest kids in the house, but they're also quite different from each other. Ray is a strategist, and he's also a realist. He looks at things in black and white in a lot of ways, but it's only because he's looking for the best path in a realistic plan. Norman is different from Ray because Norman is rather optimistic. He's smart enough to see things for how they are, but he's also smart enough to change things if that's what he wishes. Norman is trying to help all of the children escape because he says he likes Emma and he doesn't want to see her cry anymore, but it's also because he has faith in himself and his intelligence, and he thinks that he can make it happen as long as the other 2 are by his side. Emma is different from the both of these two, and that's why she doesn't really fit into the whole narrative parallel going on between them. It's probably not an accident that Norman has white hair and Ray has black hair. The two are super similar, but they're also opposites in certain ways, while Emma is a wild card. She's not black or white. She's orange. I mean, she's vibrant, she's bubbly, and she's unreasonable, but she's also massively intelligent. Emma's type of intelligence is the kind that allows her to do what's best for the entire group, even through ridiculous situations and ideas. She comes up with unreasonable plans and demands and doesn't know how she'll end up reaching her goals, but she knows that she will because that's her only choice. She puts it all on the table and is really good at reading emotions and intentions. All three of these guys are going to be necessary if they're going to outwit Isabella in her game of chess and ultimately escape the Gracefield house. And with Ray on the team now, their possibilities just went up due to his amazing planning. But the game of chess has already begun. In episode 2, Isabella comes back from the gate after the events of the first episode, and she puts on a total poker face. She doesn't show that stomach-sinking face that she made at the end of the first episode, and she puts on her usual happy act. She knows that somebody brought the bunny, and she knows what they might have seen, so now it's Isabella's role to figure out who saw. Throughout this episode, we see Isabella keeping an eye on Norman and Emma, and that makes us question whether or not she knows that it was them that saw Conny. This raises attention quite a bit, but at the same time, it's not like we expect Isabella to really act on her suspicions. After all, it has to be too soon for that. Norman is pretty much presented to us as the smartest character in the show besides Isabella, and that's because all of the kids sort of look up to him. Specifically, Ray loves to talk about how much better than him Norman is, so when Norman says that there's no way that Isabella knows that it was them based on his evaluation of how she's been acting, we trust that. Suddenly we get the scene of Isabella staring down Emma in the hallway, and her face says it all. She looks scary, and it's because she's trying to get a read on Emma by staring her down. Emma plays it off well, and again, this plays into her being a very emotionally intelligent character. This tense moment was awesome, but does Isabella buy what Emma was saying? Emma even goes a little further and talks about Conny to Isabella, and Isabella has a look in her eye that screams suspicion, but Ray comes in and stops the conversation between the two of them, and they go their separate ways. This scene is so tense because it comes out of nowhere and it's meant to surprise us and show us that Isabella is suspecting Emma and Norman at the very least, and this is very important. This shows us that Isabella is already playing chess with the students and trying to figure out who saw what, and she's playing well enough that even Norman didn't see her next move coming. She managed to do something great in episode 2, and that thing is making us question the information that we think our characters know. Norman is so sure that there's no way that she could suspect them or know that it was them, but the very next scene is Norman being wrong about this. This tells us that sometimes our characters may think one thing and have ultimate confidence in their idea or information, but it might just be wrong. It makes us question what we think we know and what Isabella actually knows or doesn't know. This is one of the first few minor chess moves made by Isabella, but more are on the way. You see, it's also in this episode that the kids find out that they're being tracked somehow. We learn that all of the students have tracking devices in them and that Isabella has a device that can show the locations of the various children in real time. This is terrifying because it means that Isabella truly does have all of these children in her web. There's nowhere that they can hide from her because she can just open up her watch and look at where they are, and the kids don't even know where these tracking devices are in their bodies or how to even begin thinking about getting them out. It'll be very important for their escape plan for them to not be followed or hunted, so this is another one of the things that they'll have to take care of before leaving if they plan on living a successful life outside of the farm. For me, this annoyed me quite a bit actually, because it made all of the moments where the kids ran into the forest seem kind of dumb. I mean, these kids are geniuses, but they go out into the restricted areas of the forest even after they realize that Isabella has a tracking device that lets her see where they are. I don't really get why they would do this, at least how it was represented in the show. Like, I don't really know why any intelligent person would think that this is a good idea. I personally would just assume that Isabella was keeping a super close eye on the watch after the Conny bunny was found, and if she showed signs of suspecting me personally, I'd expect for her to keep an eye on my dot specifically. To me, it doesn't make sense that Norman thinks that Isabella absolutely won't check the watch unless it's absolutely necessary. But sure, for whatever reason, Emma, Norma, and Ray continue to successfully do things behind Isabella's back, and now that Ray isn't sitting down reading books by himself anymore, Mama is realizing that she's actually at a certain level of disadvantage to whoever saw Connie's death. You see, the kids can make it out of Mama's line of sight and discuss and plan anything without her knowing the actual details of that plan. They can do things they aren't supposed to do and break the rules if she's not around, as long as they cover their tracks and lie about it. After all, the kids aren't supposed to know that Mama has a tracking device, so if she asked them if they were at the gate or the Forbidden Forest area, they have to say no, even if they know that she knows that they're lying, because that's just the sort of game that these two groups are playing against each other. Mama doesn't care if they find out about the tracking device, because she goes out of her way to use it right in front of them. So honestly, it comes down to Mama having a level of confidence over her ability to ship out the kids that's making this conflict very interesting. She's at a disadvantage, and she's doing little things here and there that might give the kids more information, but she's using the fact that the kids have to hide that information as a way of scaring them or controlling their movements. This massive advantage that the kids have over her is just too big for her to deal with though. At least alone. And this is where we meet our new character, Sister Krone. I'm sure many of you are going to recognize her from the opening song. Sister Krone is a tall woman that wears a similar outfit to Isabella, and she'll be moving into the house with her and the other kids. Emma and Norman are completely shocked at this new development because things have been running a certain way in the house since they were born. Things run on a very strict schedule, and it probably has to meet the demands of whoever is ordering these children every 2 months. There's very few variables to how things go here, but here we have a huge variable dropped right onto the heads of our children. This is something new and foreign to them, and Isabella just smiles because she knows that she just made a power play. She saw that Emma, Norman, and Ray were doing something out of her reach, and instead of trying to deal with it alone or doing something out of character, she got help. Isabella has to stay with the young kids during free time, and they're all usually gathered near the house away from the forest. She can't just leave these younger children by themselves, so she can't just go into the forest and confront the others to see what they're up to. But Sister Krone presents a whole new threat because now there's another adult that can be on watch who can join in on this investigation of who saw Connie's death and what the kids are secretly up to in that forest. Expect Sister Krone to fill the role of an ally to Isabella in many ways, but there's much more to learn about the character that we surely will soon. Are you excited to see how the dynamic is going to shift in the upcoming episodes, and what do you think about Sister Krone from the first few seconds we saw of her in the episode? Let me know in the comment section below, and of course, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to throw a like my way and subscribe. You can join my League of Notifications by clicking the bell icon, and that'll notify you whenever I upload, so you never have to miss out on any of your weekly Neverland goodness. Next week, we're in for some suspense, so meet me back here at around the same time and we'll talk all about it and break it down even further. I hope these videos provide you with a different look at the episodes and helps you see all of the little plot threads that may be spreading around. But for now, we'll just have to watch them spread as we wait another week. This is Pineapple. I'll see you guys later. Peace.